Hello, Southeast. This morning I was in my Bible study and Matthew 22, the parable of the wedding feast. And the story goes like this, is that there is a king and he decides to throw a wedding banquet for his son because he's getting married. And nobody came. Nobody came. And so the guy that was throwing the wedding said, you need to go out to the byways and you need to invite people to come. You need to invite people to come. And that's one of Jesus's one of the core components of Jesus's ministry is that a lot of those people who were invited chose not to come, and so he goes out to the fringe of society, the forgotten, those who are it's hard, and he goes out to the disenfranchised in society, the least in the last and the least of these, the lost, and the spiritually sick, and he goes out and he invites them. And that's the story of the wedding banquet. However, there's a part that often gets forgotten. There's a part that often gets forgotten. And so people started coming. And there was a guy that was not dressed in his wedding clothes. And there's a whole cultural thing to that, and I won't get into that now. But you needed to wear wedding clothes. And this guy came, and he was not dressed in wedding clothes. And so in verse 12, and he said to him, "Friend, how did you get in here without a wedding garment?" And he was speechless. So this guy came in and didn't put the clothes on that you're supposed to be wearing. And he was confronted about it, and he had nothing to say. And then the king said to the attendants, "Bind him hand and foot and cast him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen." And here's the thing, is that God calls everybody, right? All means all. But we're invited to come, but the message doesn't stop there. The message is that now, when you surrender your life, you are clothed with Christ. So our wedding garments would be being clothed with Christ. And what does that mean? Well, we see it. Paul describes this when he writes to the church. In Colossae, he says this in verse 12, chapter 3, verse 12 of Colossians, he says, "Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you. So you must also forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs and thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." That's what we are wearing now, is we are wearing Christ. And so I think that's so important, because oftentimes we think, this message of Christ and everybody's invited, which is absolutely true. But then the requirement is that you put on Christ. The requirement is that you surrender your life to Christ. And it's no longer you. So it's not just you kind of take it as a get out of jail free card. It is a new life, that you are not stuck in your old pattern of life. You are not stuck in your old ways. But there is Christ available to you. It is no longer I who live, but it's Christ who lives in me. And we put on Christ. So just a reminder that that's our goal, is to become Christ-like, and that's surrendering more and more of our will to him. Hey, there's some cool things that are happening. Did you know that for the month it takes 325 volunteers to make Southeast happen? So that's musicians, that's tech, that's group leaders, that's all the stuff, the children's ministry, the communion offering, all that. 325 spots. That's a lot of volunteers. It's a lot of hours. And so we wanted to invite you to come and join our team, to come help the community gather and worship and grow, build each other up in love. And so we are doing a campaign called Erase the Red. And if you go into the lobby, you will see a big display. And on that display are all the positions that are available, and they are in red squares. And the goal is that we erase those red squares and we put volunteers in those spots. So make sure that you do that. If you're not in the lobby and you're watching online, but you're like, I don't want to get involved, or I'm not going to be here for the next 3 weeks, be sure to email, contact the church, reach out to Betty at southeast.cc, and just say, hey, I want to get involved. The other thing is we are a church where you can ask questions, where questions are welcomed. We have a lot of people that come from different backgrounds to Southeast. We have some who have been Christians for a very long time, and we have others who are coming out of different backgrounds. Some are coming out of religion, some are coming out of nothing, and some, you know, you name it. We have people that are coming out of those. And there's a lot of questions, and so we understand that it's difficult to find a church, especially a church home, and so we teach a class every month. Usually it's on the first Sunday of the month, but because we had our chili cook-off last Sunday, we pushed it to this week. So first step is this coming Sunday on the 11th. And if you're new to Southeast, or maybe you've been coming for a little while and you just don't feel connected, we would love to have you join us for First Step. Southeast, I love you. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and God bless.